Hi, guys. Well, I get to be the advance guard again. I'm sure the others will be tagging along shortly. Yep. So here we are, 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night, April 22nd, the year of our Lord 2025. And this is me, Yankee T News. Hey, Yankee T News coming to you. All right. Somewhere Alan, somewhere Jason. But I can tell you a lot of interesting things. We'll probably talk about it again when they get on. But you always have to ask the question when something unusual happens in the news, you have to ask, why now? Why not yesterday? Why not last week? Why not last year? Why not next month? Why now? All right. So the why now question applies to the rather rapid termination of Mr. John Phelan, our now former Secretary of the Navy, replaced by the acting Secretary of the Navy with the rather odd name Hung Cao, CAO. So we await to hear more about this. So the thing is that John Phelan apparently was not anybody who had any real military experience. So what was he doing as the Secretary of the Navy? I know this kind of stuff has happened before, but still, I mean, especially now when you find yourself in the middle of a crucial conflict where the Navy is playing a central role, it's kind of like trying to change horses in midstream almost. But I will add the buried lead on Mr. Phelan as our former Secretary of the Navy was that apparently he too has been to Lolita Island. Yes, his name shows up in the logs for Epstein's flights to his island. So we have a few questions, and I guess he's going to have to answer them more as the ex-Secretary of the Navy. So I'm thinking, for whatever reason, that has suddenly become an issue. There are going to be some people saying, well, gee, I thought we were over the Epstein problem. Well, maybe we're not over the Epstein problem. So we'll see. But so I just had to mention that. And while we're waiting for the other guys to show up, the other hot topic I want to get into, yes, the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. Now, part of what gets me is the guy who founded it, his name escapes me, had a fortune of over $500 million. All right. And here he, the uber liberal that he was, had formed this SPLC group in order to, quote, fight hate. All right. So now we've learned that he was feeding the hate rather than fighting the hate. To what extent? How deeply? Well, I'm sure we're going to find out. I believe the Department of Justice brought an 11-count indictment against him for his questionable activities. Yes. So the two sort of more lurid examples that they've held up is how he not only had informants who infiltrated the KKK and the White Aryan Group, I think that's their name, but also in an effort to stir things up. And I believe the Nazi Association that's in America also benefited from some support from the SPLC. So were laws broken? We're still waiting to find out. But this whole issue has risen to such a level, now you have the Department of Justice coming out, making these allegations, making these charges, and we're waiting to see what happens. And I think this becomes the most striking example of a comment some people have made. You have liberals who cannot help themselves, all right? They see a racist behind every rock, behind every tree, under every rock, behind every bush, racist, racist, racist. Microaggressions and all this other crap. And then we find out that they've been busy. Well, come on, Jason. He says you're ready. Let's go. Get on board. Jason just reporting in here. So I just got to give him a little note. It says, okay. Let's see if that makes him show up. All right. And Alan, where are you, Alan? My goodness, you guys. Anyway, So there's more demand for racism than there is a supply of racism. All right. The idea that so many people in America, so many white people in America, have these deep-seated racist hatred, this racist hatred, these impulses against people of other groups that are not white, is oversold. It is so oversold, I don't even know where to begin. But we do know that with a group like SPLC, where they're standing around going, gee, we don't have a case. We don't have anybody to embarrass. There's no place to bring charges. What's going on here? And so they have to gin it up. And how many of these kinds of hoaxes have been going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to take you back in time, okay, to the Duke lacrosse team many, many years ago, when it was a young Black woman who put false charges against these young men, and they were dragged through the court system. Their reputations were ruined. And in spite of it all, luckily, justice prevailed, but not after a great cost was paid. Okay, there was her. There was this other weird thing involving mattresses in some colleges, and that turned out to be a hoax. Do I have to bring up Jussie Smollett as another example? You know, those are the ones that just come to mind. If I did a little research, there'd be more, all right? And you just, what was the name of that driver? He thought the door handle for pulling down the drawer was a noose. And it was racist. Okay. So I've just made my case there, and you've had this problem going on for a very long time. And there's no sign that it's going to change. However, what we would like to believe is that now that the SPLC is in the hot seat where they belong, we'll begin to see some of this stuff unwind. Because what's the weird thing that happens here, okay? The weird thing that happens is as these people are called out, all right, all these incidences, these racial hoaxes will go down and down and down, all right? And then we can start to maybe breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief, but that doesn't take away from all the other problems there are. But enough of this. And when you have someone like this, a guy with $500 million, and all he can think about is trying to hatch phony plots against people, trying to make them seem like racists. Yeah, what was it? The Catholic Church? You know, humble, normal, salt of the earth people who go to church, and somehow these are hate-filled racists? No, there's another problem there. And dare I bring the word up, okay? This goes on all the time, right? We know that there are people who hate this country. And yes, the people who hate this country might have a little connection with Marxism, just saying. Okay, and so they can't help themselves and they do stuff like this. Well, anyway, I'm sure we'll be talking about that too. Where did everybody go? You guys are supposed to be here. Alan, Jason. All right, anyway. The other hot item here, well, I might as well just get it off my chest. Okay, the stuff that's going on with Iran, all right? I find myself very confused by the different signals that we're getting about the Strait of Hormuz, all right? And nothing, okay, good, Alan, come on. Beat your boy, come on. All right, so the problem really is that we keep getting these, I'm going to call it inconsistent. And I think part of the inconsistency is that there's too much pressure coming from somewhere, the president, Department of Defense, somebody who's saying we got to make everything look as good and as great as possible, even when it's not. And I'm going to hold up as primary, as Exhibit A in this discussion, is clearing the mines out of Hormuz. All right. Now, the part one of the story. All right. So we got inconsistent messages. Iran was laying mines. No, they're not laying mines. We got rid of all of their Navy. No, we didn't get rid of all of their Navy. Well, which is it, guys? And then when they talk about the mines themselves, there is just an incredible array of types of mines that can be laid. You have your classic ones. There's an anchor on the bottom, and it's a spiked mine. You've seen the pictures, sitting in the water, and it's magnetic. A ship comes nearby, and it somehow leads towards the ship and causes an explosion. You can have other mines that just lie on the bottom, and they're able to propel themselves. And when something comes in range, up they go, and they hit the ship. Very hard to detect. All right, and then there are yet other types of mines. Now, my contention is that the Iranian Navy still has some chops. I know that's unpopular, but when you see that the attack boats had hardly been done away with, and I think there are questions that are still unanswered about the submarines, okay? The Iranians supposedly have mine-laying submarines. Maybe they hit a few. Just a thought, because we've talked all this time about how the Iranians, quite frankly, have been waiting for us. They've been waiting for us for a long time. So when we showed up, all they did was start to execute their plans. And this just leads me to the next part of my little rant about Iran. Expect more, all right? They're not done, all right? They may be seriously weakened, and I mean seriously weakened, but the naval component of the Iranian government, the Islamic Republic, is going to be fully capable of launching other surprises. So the job for the U.S. Navy is much more extensive, much more difficult than is being reported, okay? So when you have a news announcement now that comes out stating that it may take 6 months for the U.S. Navy to clear Hormuz of mines, what do you think, okay? Has somebody not been quite telling us the truth? I would say so. Yes, what is that? The Strait over in the Pacific is also in play. Well, that's for sure. Yeah, I just, all right, for what it's worth. So Eric suggests, yes, we can't forget about Southeast Asia. We cannot forget about China. And what's going on with Jason here? Hold on. What's going on? Where is everybody? All right, dude. All right, I'm sorry, folks. I just, this is supposed to be a team effort here. And everybody is kind of like crapping out tonight, and I don't know why. But hang in with me. Hang in.
You have reached JBE investigation.
All right, never mind. Okay, so there you go. All right. Yes, so there was also an article claiming that what goes on in Iran right now is preparation for what we're going to have to do when it comes time to dealing with China. Okay, but that's like, 3, 4, 5 years away from now. It's not going to be soon. And by the way, so on that point, I just want to emphasize, her name is Lei, L-E-I. She has a great channel. She's a Chinese expat. And she's made the point that here's what's happened. Our attacking Iran has triggered a huge purge of generals and contractors in China because they are finding out the hard way that a lot of the hardware they made is crap. Doesn't work that well. Doesn't meet performance standards, isn't reliable. Oh my goodness. Okay, so she's had to wake up and said, however you say holy crap in Mandarin, we have a problem. Okay, our military equipment may be far worse, far more inferior to the American products, even though we've been stealing their technology. And by the way, I just remembered, does anybody remember the 10 petabytes of data that was downloaded from some main computers in China revealing all the different military R&D projects they have? That was pretty interesting, if it's true. Okay, so there's that. There's, anyway, what was it? All right. So with these contractors, they have to go back to the drawing board on a lot of their stuff. Their J-20 fighters, their radars, their air defense systems, all this stuff. The hypersonic missiles. Oh, my goodness. No. Okay, so all of this leads to a very painful conclusion. And I have another rejoinder here. Bear with me. Is that there whatever plans they have to attack Taiwan are predicated on having equipment that performs according to certain standards. And if it's not, Well, I guess that invasion isn't going to work out very well now, is it? Okay. So, one of the other things that's come out of our attack on Iran here, ladies and gentlemen, plus what's been happening in Russia, Ukraine, has been the advent of drone technology. All right. And what has happened is that China has had to rethink. All right, what's going on here? What's going on, Jason?
Everything okay over there?
Well, yeah. Why are you not on air here? I'm waiting for you.
I don't have an invite.
I see. All right. Oh God. So, ladies and gentlemen, I did send the invite.
I don't have it though.
I don't see how it could be here. Hold on. Due to technical difficulties. Let's see here.
I have internet here. It's like
no, that's not
the
it.
old one. At the old one work or no? You have to be the new one.
They're unique every time. Okay.
Oh.
You know what I'm going to have to do here? Hold on. I'm going to, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to be back in about 5 minutes or less. All right. And so just stay with me. We got a lot more to talk about. Yes.